The Alabama Rental Agreement. In this video, we will tell you about the most noteworthy aspects of rental agreements in the state of Alabama. What is a rental agreement? A rental agreement or a lease is a document that outlines the arrangement between two parties regarding a property rental. The one who's paying rent is called a tenant, while the owner of the property, who lets the other party use it under certain conditions, is called a landlord. The parties may also be called a lessor and lessee. Typically, a rental agreement lasts for 6 or 12 months, with rent being paid every month or every week. There is one federal disclosure that works for all lease agreements in the United States. This is called the lead disclosure, and it requires the landlord to tell the tenant about all known lead paint hazards. They should also provide the state-approved version of the pamphlet, Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home. However, this requirement applies to not all types of residential dwellings. Required disclosures. Apart from the above-mentioned disclosure, the landlord should also provide the tenant with the names and business addresses of the people who own and are authorized to manage the rental unit. Security deposits. In the state of Alabama, the security deposit cannot be more than 1 month's rent. The deposit should be returned by the landlord within 60 days after the termination of the tenancy and delivery of possession. According to the Alabama legislature, if any damage is caused to the premises, the landlord can use the deposit to pay unpaid rent and to repair any property damages caused by the tenant. If the landlord fails to mail the security deposit or an itemized list of withholdings within 60 days, the tenant can receive up to twice the amount of the security deposit paid. Landlord Access. In the state of Alabama, the landlord can reasonably enter the rented premises to inspect them, make necessary or agreed repairs, etc. However, at least a 2 days notice needs to be sent to the tenant, and it should be posted on the main door of the premises. The landlord is allowed to enter the dwelling without the tenant's consent only in the case of an emergency or according to the court's order. Termination of agreement. For termination of a month-to-month lease, at least a 30-day written notice is required, and it can be written by either party. For termination of a week-to-week lease, at least a 7-day written notice is required, and it can be initiated, again, by either party. Notice periods for non-payment and non-compliance. If the tenant fails to pay the rent or violates the terms of the lease, the landlord should send a written notice to either pay any past due rent and associated late fees or remedy the violation, or the rental agreement is terminated. Termination can come into effect in no less than 7 business days after the tenant gets the notice.